What is God doing in your life right now? Tell your miracle message. Tell your story and don't ever get tired of telling it. You're going to get tired of telling it because you think, oh, it's just the same thing. I've already told this story. I don't want to bore these people. Do not stop telling your story, because if we stop telling our story, there's going to be a generation that comes after us that is not going to know the Lord. This is serious stuff. This takes commitment. This takes boldness. This is why God said, Joshua, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. Everywhere you go, it's going to be all right because I am with you. You've got a story to tell. I've got a story to tell. We are in a position where we're about to see something pretty cool. We're about to experience something, be part of something that we're going to be able to talk about for a while. But the only way that that's going to happen is if you are on board, if you are part of it, if you are committed to what we're doing. And that's how God works. That wasn't in my notes yet. But I feel like we are being called to deeper commitment. We're being called to more. It might be money, and I know that's weird to talk about in student ministry, but it might be, maybe God's calling you to give money. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's your skills. Maybe it's something else. But I feel like we're being called for more. And if we respond to that in the right way, God is going to reward us greatly. Because I don't think that He says, do this, and then you'll get this, and all of this. He won't, how do I say this? Paul made coffee, so I call it Holy Spirit juice, because I say a lot of really cool things after I drink coffee, but it's all the Holy Spirit. If you press in, if you give, if you commit to a higher level, God is going to reward you for that. He's going to reward me for that. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And He's calling us to a new place. He's calling us to another level. He's calling us to another dimension that we haven't been yet, but I think we are right there. And He's preparing us for something that is greater than us individually, but together we can get there. You follow? I'm going to need some help with this. You know, a sermon is better when the people in the seats respond a little bit, and when the people are into it a little bit. It's scientifically proven that the sermon is that much better when the people. So I'm not saying this for hype, because I wasn't planning on saying this or anything like that, but I really feel like we're going to another level if you're on the train, if you're willing to dig down and get with it and even say no to certain things, that are good, and maybe some that aren't so good, maybe some habits that you need to get rid of and deal with and give to God, good or bad, I don't know. Sometimes we need to say no to those so that we can say yes to something even greater. We have to give up something that's good. We have to give up something that we like. We have to give up some things that we enjoy for that next thing that is even greater. And God is calling us to that, and He's calling us into this transition. And this is kind of what I want to talk about tonight. And I'm going to read a few scriptures, so stick with me while I read these. It'll be on the screen. You can write them down and read them later if you want. But I'm going to read this, and then we're going to get into what we're talking about. We're going to be in Joshua, and I'm going to start in chapter 1 with verse 1, and then I'm going to skip over to chapter 4. So real quick. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. Verse 3, I will give you every place where you set your foot as I promised Moses. So what I promised Moses before, I'm now promising you the same exact thing. We're going to get back to that a little bit later. Verse 4, your territory will extend from this place to the great river of the Euphrates to that place over there. Everywhere you step, you're going to have. Verse 5, no one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. Man, as a leader, I want God to say that to me. Holy smokes, I'll do any. This is mine, 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 this is mine. Like, that's what we're going after here. And Joshua's getting this word from God. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Here it is, the most famous verse that people like, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Verse 6, be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. This is one of 3 times that God tells Joshua, be strong and courageous, which probably means that Joshua was a little bit freaked out because he's about to be part of something that is way bigger than he can do on his own. But God said, I will be with you, and everywhere you step is going to be yours because I've already given it. You just need to go out and step on it. Let's jump over to chapter 4. It says this, when the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, 1 from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you, and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. Verse 4, so Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, 1 from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. My title today is this: the middle, the memorial, the message. The middle, the memorial, the message. Israel is about to change seasons. The seasons are changing for the Israelites. And really our lives are made up of season changes. You with me? You agree with me? Good. So when one season ends, there's always a beginning of another season. You tracking? So we're entering into this Christmas season. I love Christmas, and there's food and gifts and all of this stuff. I'm a size extra large shirt. I like the Steelers, if you're taking notes. I like food. And then we get to the New Year's season, so we have all these holidays here, and it's busy, but it's fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love this time, and we have lights, and white lights only. Don't get the colored stuff. White lights only. But what I want to say is we're entering into a new season. I think some of us personally are entering into a new season. I think us corporately as a ministry, we're entering into a new season. And with this idea, every time there's a new season, we need to have a new mindset. Let me explain this to you. So in summer, we wear shorts, maybe tank tops. So our wardrobe is different in the summer than it is in the winter. It's a different mindset. We have to wear different things. Sometimes we have to use different tools. In the summer, we use a lawnmower. In the fall, we use a leaf blower. In the winter, we use a snow shovel. If you're using a snow shovel in the summer, it's kind of weird. There's a season for everything, and you have to have a different mindset. And there's food, the same thing. Thanksgiving, if you walk into Walmart or wherever you go, there's going to be ingredients for green bean casserole around Thanksgiving every year. And then once Thanksgiving's over, everything in the middle aisle is all for cookies butter, sugar. If you don't have butter and you don't have sugar, it's not a cookie. It doesn't count. Put butter and sugar in there. So we have different seasons. We have different foods. In the summer, we have hamburgers and hot dogs. It's kind of weird for me to eat a hamburger and a hot dog in the middle of winter. I don't know about you. I'm weird like that, but that's how I am. A new season means new mindset. A new season means new mindset. And so this idea of mindset, did you know that you have control over your mind? You are responsible for your mind. You have control of your mindset. You get to see every situation how you want to see it. You can walk into school, two of you can walk into the same exact school. Somebody can have a bad attitude, somebody can have a good attitude, and depending on your attitude, depending on your mindset, how you manage your mindset, will determine how the day is going to go for you. You follow me? You've experienced this? Come on. I mean, there's some times where I'm just like, this is going to be a great day, and I have a great day. And sometimes I wake out of bed, I say, I just want to have a bad day, so everything is going to be bad, and it ends up bad. I don't know why we do that, but you have control of your mind. It is your responsibility to manage your mindset. And whatever situation you get into, you have control of your mind. You might not get to control the situations that you're in. You might not get to control what happens outside of you, but you get to control how you see things. You get to control how things are going to be perceived in your mind. Agree? Okay. Everything in life we are responsible, rather, to manage. Everything in our lives that is given to us is our responsibility to manage. I didn't understand this quite as much as I do now, but it's a privilege to have kids. Sometimes it's ridiculous, and sometimes it's hard, but it's a privilege, and it's my responsibility to manage that blessing from God. I didn't understand. It's a blessing from God. Like, yeah, but it's normal, and it happens, and it's just the way things are supposed to be. You're supposed to go to school. You're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have kids, and all of this. But I didn't understand, like, it is really a blessing, but it's also pretty hard sometimes because I have to make decisions that is going to determine some of the ways that they're going to go. And based on how I manage my responsibility with these kids is going to determine somewhat of their future. And so it's a big responsibility, and it's my responsibility to manage. God gives us everything, but he allows us to manage his stuff. God gives us everything that we have. Everything that you have is from God, and he's allowing you to manage it. Riley has an iPad. And so she knows how to work it. She knows how to get to Netflix. You need her to fix it. She'll fix it for you. She might even be able to change the password, but not my iPad. And so sometimes she gets an attitude and she'll say, nah, give me my iPad, blah, 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 or whatever. This is my iPad. And I say, this is my iPad that I let you have. I can take it away whenever I want. The other day she said, get out of my room. I said, this is my room. I let you sleep in it. That's my mattress that you are sleeping on, and I can take it away. It's my stuff because I pay for it, and I let her live there. You follow me? That's some good parenting, right, guys? This principle is true today. This principle was true back in this story. The Israelites are entering a new season. And because of this, they have to have a new mindset from where they were before to where they are now going. They have a new leader. Moses is dead, and Joshua is taking his place. They have a new leader. Things are going to be a little bit different. They have new land. They were running around in circles for 40 years, and now God says it's time to take the land that I promised you. So they have a new leader, they have new land. They also have new food. God was providing food for the Israelites every single day. Every single morning they would wake up, get out of their tents, and there was manna on the floor or on the ground, and they would go pick it up. They had enough for that day. But when they go into this land, the manna stops. The very first day they're in this land, the manna stops and they eat the food of the land. And so now all of these things, they have to have a new mindset. And so they're changing. And the Jordan River is this transition for them. The Israelites are about to go from the desert to the promised land, and they have to go through the river to get there. And so the Jordan River, it's cool. Like there's stuff in there. Rivers are cool. I love being on water. I like being around water and all that stuff. But the Jordan River is not huge. Like it's there but what the Jordan River symbolizes is ridiculously huge. There's so many miracles that God did at this place. Elisha got his Elijah's mantle at this river. Elisha took a coat, smacked it on the floor, and walked across the river on dry ground. We're about to talk about the Israelites doing that. Elisha did it a little bit later. But there's so many cool things that happen, and the Jordan River represents transitions. It represents changes. It represents things are about to be different. So God gives direction to Joshua. It's time. Pack up your stuff. We're going through the river. So Joshua then takes those directions and gives it to the people. He gives it to the Israelites and he gives it to the priests. And he said, this is what's going to happen. And they begin to move. And in chapter 3, verse 14, it says, so when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam. I know some people that try to disprove the Bible. And so some people will say, oh, well, the Jordan, it had these spots that were more shallow than other spots. And you could kind of ford your way through the river because it was more shallow. But the Bible points out this is during the harvest time. This is during a flood stage. So even if there is shallow parts, I mean, this river is up high, and you're not going to be getting through it pretty easy. And they've got tons of people to come across. And it says that yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water stopped flowing. It wouldn't be possible for them to walk through this. The water would be too fast. People would get hurt and all this stuff. And so what is your mindset when you come up to a river like this? When your obstacle is impossible, are you going to stay at the water's edge and just watch the water go by and wait on God to carry you over the river? Like, I'm just waiting on God to carry me over the river? Or are you going to listen to what God has told you and say, no, we're going through the river? Sometimes, yes, we need to wait on God. It's okay to wait on God sometimes. But when you have a word from God and then you wait on God, now we're entering into sin. Because God said, this is going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. Do you have faith to make it happen? We're not just going to wait for God to carry us over the river. God's going to bring us through the river. And so that's what is happening here. Where's your mindset? Don't wait for God to carry you over your obstacle when he's saying, I want you to cross through it. That was good. I like that. There was something interesting. As you read in chapter 3, it says that the priest took the Ark of the Covenant and they were certain cubits away from everybody. The Israelites were supposed to stay back. They were about half a mile behind the priests. So the priests are carrying this big thing, the Ark of the Covenant, which represented God. And so the priests are going out. And I kept asking myself, why would they be half a mile ahead of everybody? And as I'm studying this week, I'm asking God, like, why? And I looked at commentaries, I looked at other things, and Didn't really find an answer that I liked. And then, out of nowhere, it hit me. Why are they a half mile ahead? I think it's because God was allowing the leaders to go first, because as leaders, we have to go first. If we're not willing to go where we want other people to go, nobody's going to follow. And so they're a half mile ahead carrying the Ark of the Covenant with them, and they get to the water's edge, and half a mile away, the people are watching, is this really going to happen? And I think in the minds of the leaders, there might even be asking, is this really going to happen? And they step up, and all of a sudden, the water splits. And people up in Adam, they're like, what is this heap of water doing up here? Like I picture, this is weird, I have a 3-year-old daughter, okay? I'm picturing Moana up in here. You remember when little Moana, she's collecting shells and she walks into the ocean and then all of a sudden the ocean kind of splits? Come on, I know you've seen it. All right. Like she's walking up and she picks them up and the water starts heaping up around her. And you remember the, huh? And the water goes like that and then it messes, whatever. The leaders have to be that far ahead so that the people behind them will follow. That's why I think they were so far ahead. Maybe there's an answer out there somewhere that I haven't found yet that other people smarter than me know. But I think God wanted to allow the leaders to go so that the people knew that they could go through. They saw the water split and they were able to go. The leaders, they were told to stand in the middle of the river. This water is heaping up a distance away. They were told to stand in the middle as everybody else passed them by. It says the priest who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried over. I think that's funny. The people hurried over. The leaders are freaking out in the middle of the river. And the people are also freaking out. That's why it says they hurried over. You know, like, I'm not just taking my time like, oh, the water's heaping up, and let me take a selfie real quick in this. No, these people were booking it across the river because they don't know when the water's going to come back. You know what I'm saying? Like, when sometimes when you're going through something and it's tough and it's scary, sometimes you just need to go and hurry up through. Come on, somebody. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priest came out of the water as the people watched. I told you before that I have a list of questions in my iPhone in heaven that Peter's going to give me one day. And one of my questions that I want to ask is, what was going on in your mind, leaders, when you were standing in the middle of this Jordan River holding the ark as people are going by? Like, what if the water flows again while we're in the middle of it? What if there's some people that don't cross it and we have to stand here forever trying to convince them that it's okay to cross? What if we get over to the promised land and we're not really able to do what God said we're going to do? Because, you know, they had to fight battles to get this land. God said it was theirs, but they had to go around Jericho a few times at first and fight that and fight many other places to get the land. So it took work on their part. What if this isn't the right time? What if we jump the gun? Maybe we need to walk around the desert another 40 years. What is going on in their minds as they're standing in the middle? Because it isn't easy in the middle. When you're in the middle, it's easy for us to look at the story and, yeah, that was great faith and they were doing awesome, but they were in the middle of that story. And you're in the middle of a story. And I'm in the middle of a story, and I don't know the end. Yeah, I know God has a plan for me, plans to prosper, not to harm me, and all of that. But I'm in the middle of this, and while I'm in the middle, I need to manage what's going on, and I want to make sure that I'm making the right decisions, and sometimes I just don't know, and sometimes I'm afraid, and sometimes I just wish that I could see the end, I could see what I should do next. You know what I'm saying? When you're in the middle of something, it's pretty hard, and it's pretty difficult. When I'm teaching, I have a lot of fun. But there's some times where where I'm like, what was it? Did it help? Like, that was a bad one. You know, like when I get home, it's like, that wasn't very good. I should have said this. I should have done it this way. I don't know. This really isn't worth it. I don't know why I'm even doing this. But when I have those thoughts, typically, those are the times where I get the most feedback of, man, that one really helped me. You said this, and that just spoke to me in this way. And I know some of you feel this because I talk to you after you're done singing, and you're like, man, I messed up here, and I messed up here. And I get comments as I'm coming up here like, man, that really touched me. Like, holy cow, like God was singing to me through this person. And you're saying, well, I probably shouldn't sing anymore. I'm sorry for... When you're in the middle of it, we don't feel like we're making a difference. When we're in the middle of it, we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And guess what? It's not about me, and it's not about you. It's about God doing what he wants to do with the message that is coming out of us. You following? When you're in the middle, and you know that God has said that he's going to do something. When you're in the middle of this river and you got water on one side that's about to flood back on and crush. They've seen it before. They crossed the Red Sea, and they saw what happened to the Egyptians when they were done getting across. You remember that? Those Egyptians don't. But sometimes we're in the middle and we say, God, I know you said. God, I know that you'll do. But I don't feel it right now, God. I don't know, God. And I'm unsure, God. It's easy to praise God after you've been through something, after he's brought you to the other side. But what if we would stand in the middle, and while we're in the middle, we're praising God for him bringing us out of it before it even happens? What if we did that? It's called a sacrifice of praise. It's called I don't feel like showing up to church tonight, but I'm going to come anyway because I know that that's the time that I need God the most to show up in my life, and I need a touch from heaven, and I need him to do something for me. It's a sacrifice of praise. I'm going to praise you before you even answer what I'm asking for. I know that you know that I need this. And I'm going to thank you for it before you even give it to me. It's a sacrifice of praise, and that's what's happening. They're in the middle of this. They cross through the Jordan River. Joshua 4, it says, go over before the ark of the Lord. Joshua's talking to these 12 guys that he picked out before. He says, go over to the ark of the Lord. You've crossed. I want you to go back to the middle, go where the ark is right now, and I want you to find 12 stones, and I want you to bring them up out with you. And we're going to carry them with us to where we're going to camp tonight. And he says, in the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. These stones are going to be a memorial for the people of Israel forever. Tell this amazing story of what God did today, is what Joshua is saying. Tell this story. Don't stop telling this story. Don't ever stop telling the story. Sometimes when I'm working at home in my office, Riley will come down with me, and she'll see different things that I have around the room or whatever, and she'll say, oh, what's that? And I get to tell the story of whatever that thing is, that picture, or sometimes it's different things. We were going through some stuff, and she saw trophies and medals and all of that stuff, and, oh, what's that? Oh, that's when we won this, and I ran track, and do you want to run track too? Yeah, I want to run track. Like, I'm trying to brainwash her because we're not playing soccer. We're going to run track. You know what I'm saying? But she says, what is that? What is this circular thing that's shiny when I put it in the light called a CD? You remember those? Maybe if we go way back, we can get a cassette tape or a VCR tape. I don't even remember 45, so. Stick with me. This story needs to be told. Joshua says, when your children ask you, when you come back to this place, when you see this thing that we built with these 12 stones, because they went to their camp and Joshua took these stones and he put them in memorial, and he said, when you come back and your kids ask, what is that? Tell them what God did today. And at first, a few years later, they'll come back, Dad, what are these stones? He'll say, oh, God did something amazing that day. We weren't sure what was going to happen. The priests were half a mile ahead of us. They went through, and then all of a sudden the water dried up, and we crossed through. It was amazing. And then a few years go by, and they see the stones again. Dad, what was that? Why are these here? It was one day we were on the other side of the river, and Joshua said, we need to go to the other side, and so we walked across, and yeah, it was all right. And then a few years later, what are these stones, Dad? It was something. Joshua, he was our new leader. It was weird. Like, I don't know. And over time, they stopped telling the story. How do I know? Look at Judges 2. It says, after that whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. Joshua died, and when everybody in his generation passed, the new generation had no clue who the Lord was. Why? They stopped telling the story. They stopped sharing this miracle message that God did that day. Don't stop telling your story. The next generation knew nothing about the Lord. The miracle message stopped being told. You have a message. You have a message. And sometimes we think, oh, my story, it's not that great. Like, I grew up in the church. I've always been in the church. You don't have to have this big turnaround story to have an awesome message. Our story is, I was dead in my sin. Jesus ripped his hand into my life, into my heart, grabbed it, would not let me go. I was going this way. He said, nope, you're going this way. And so I went that way. I don't know why he did it. I don't always understand why he continues to do it, but God saved me, and I need to tell you about it. Anytime you're going out to pray with somebody, or we're going out to tell people about Jesus, oh, Jesus, yeah, he died on the cross, and he did this. Yeah, we got to tell that story. But what is he doing in your life right now? That's what you need to tell people that you work with. That's what you need to tell people that you're sitting next to in class. What is God doing in your life right now? Tell your miracle message. Tell your story, and don't ever get tired of telling it. You're going to get tired of telling it because you think, oh, it's just the same thing. I've already told this story. I don't want to bore these people. Do not stop telling your story, because if we stop telling our story, there's going to be a generation that comes after us that is not going to know the Lord. This is serious stuff. This takes commitment. This takes boldness. This is why God said, Joshua, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. Everywhere you go, it's going to be all right because I am with you. You've got a story to tell. I've got a story to tell. So what story are you telling? Because God's story is the gospel. The gospel is simple. Jesus came down. He showed us how we can live. He died. He rose again to give us new life. He's alive, which means he's still doing things today, which means we need to pay attention to what he's doing. That's why we ask the question every week, what is God doing in your life? Because we need to keep our awareness on what is God doing. What is God doing? Yeah, we need to tell our testimony of maybe for some of us older ones of, yeah, I was saved at this age, and all of that is good, but what is he doing right now? What is he doing today? How is he using you today? What story are you telling? How you manage the middle of your story will determine your future. How you manage the middle is going to determine your future. Every time. Sometimes we need to see, sometimes to see the middle, here's the title of the series, we need to rewind a little bit to see, oh wow, God really did that. Sometimes we just need to sit in silence and reflect on, how did I get here? How did that happen? Oh, that was God. And sometimes we need to just sit to catch up a little bit. What story are you telling? And what story are we telling as a ministry? What story are we telling as a ministry? Because we are here to make a difference. We are here to equip and empower. We are here to equip and empower. All we need to do is seek God's kingdom first, and He'll give us everything we need. And when we have everything we need from God, we'll change the world. I really believe that. Are you willing to be equipped? Are you willing to be empowered? And then are you willing to equip and empower? Tell your story. What story are we telling? Because we're not here to be comfortable. We're not here to be entertained. Yeah, we're going to have fun and we're going to do things that are fun. But we're here to change the world. We're here to make a difference. Moses, I said this earlier, Moses got the same promise from God that Joshua got from God. Remember that? Moses said, God said to Moses, you're going to lead the people to the promised land. The problem is, Moses didn't manage the middle quite like God wanted him to. And so Moses only got to see the promised land. And then he died. Joshua had the very same promise, and he got to lead them people. Despite the fears, despite the uncertainty, despite the what ifs, Joshua said, we're going to do this. This is going to happen. He said, we're going to stand in the middle until God does what He wants to do. The priests, the leaders, they stood in the middle of the river until everything was finished. You remember reading that? Everything had to be done before they got out. And as soon as they stepped out of the river, the water came back. And God led them through the river. Don't wait on God to carry you over. He wants to bring you through. Good? Are you with me? Do you want to change the trajectory of a generation? I really believe we can do that. I've seen things happen that shouldn't happen, but God said, I want this to happen, and I'm going to use you to do it. I believe God's going to use us. I believe that since we've started this. Are you willing to fight the fight? Are you willing to stay in the middle until God does what He wants to do? Let's pray. God, we thank you. We love you. God, I thank you for Joshua. And maybe he was scared. Maybe he was uncertain, but he still went. And he still took a step. And he still did what you asked him to do. God, we ask that we would have the same boldness, the same courage to do the same. God, right now we ask that you would lead us. God, we don't want to be carried through. We want to be used to walk through. God, we thank you for what you're doing with us. We ask that you continue to bless us. We ask that you move mountains. God, make a difference by using us. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.